Hi there, it's Debbie from cariadcards.co, and today I'm going to be showing you how I made this card. Now I'm filming at 10 o'clock at night, it's pitch dark outside and the lighting isn't brilliant in here, so if the colours look a little bit off, that's why. Normally I film in the daytime. So started off with a 6" by 6" card blank. And then I've only got one layer today, so I cut that Whisper White cardstock. I've cut to 14 centimetres by 14 centimetres or 5.5 inches by 5.5 inches. So the very first thing that I did was to stamp these 3 medallions, and I've used Pink Pirouette, Strawberry Slush and Cherry Cobbler. The idea is that I've gone down in gradations of colour. I've used the Everything Eleanor stamp set. This is there's 2 boxes. This is box 1 of 2, and that's the stamp that I've chosen to use. Now I wanted to make sure that I could get this in the right place each time. I had quite a few goes where I just tried to do it freehand and I either got them too close to one another or overlapping one another. So I thought I would use my wonderful Stamp-A-Majig and a piece of vellum. I have shown you on another card how I've done this, but I'll go through it again just in case you haven't seen that video. So what you do, and it works far better with a wood mounted stamp, it's a little bit more difficult with an acrylic stamp in that with a foam back stamp, because you take them off and put them on an acrylic block each time, or I would imagine most people do. Whereas with the wood mounted stamp, it's permanently on there in the same position. So what you do, even if you're using a foam mounted stamp with an acrylic block, you can still do the same thing, but you might need to restamp your vellum each time. So pretend that's a blank piece of vellum. I should have brought some spare vellum in with me and I haven't. But, oh, shall I tell you what I could do? Let's pretend that's vellum for now because it's blank. So you put a right angled corner, make sure you've got a proper right angled corner, put it right up against the edge of your Stamp-A-Majig. What I do is I mark the top left hand corner because I know that's the corner that's always going to go into the Stamp-A-Majig. Ink up your stamp and then make sure it fits absolutely flush there. Go in there, press it down. Obviously I haven't put any ink on, but I'm just showing you what I do. Press it down and then you would end up with a stamped image. So the reason you use vellum is because you can see through it, because we're going to put that onto our card later. So again, I just mark a little arrow in the top left hand corner so it exactly matches the stamp. So imagine that that's the paper that I've just stamped. It's on vellum. We've cut it out just to save a bit of vellum. What I'm going to do then is, when I've got my piece of card, I'm going to work out from this where I want my stamp to be placed. And I'm going to do the middle one first. So that way I can exactly space them out compared to other ones. Now I want these points facing upwards, just no particular reason, just that's how I want it to look. So I'm going to, I normally put my foam underneath. Let's have a go without, see how we get on. Put your vellum on, get your Stamp-A-Majig, put it into the corner, so that's exactly flush. So when you take the vellum away, don't move that. If you do, you'll have to just set it up again. I'm going to use Strawberry Slush and ink my stamp up. Plenty of ink on there. Now again, just absolutely flush there. Now it might look as though it's a bit squiffy. I think the only reason for that is I've put this sticker on the back a bit squiffy. And yes, the lines are going up at an angle, but that doesn't matter because they're going to be covered with the card circles. But what it meant was I could get those at the top and the bottom. It probably doesn't matter, it's just I'm a little bit OCD about things like that. So I've got my first one. Now you really want to just let that dry before you put the vellum on again, otherwise you'll pick up ink on the back of the vellum, and when you transfer it to another part of the card you're going to get splodges of ink. So I'm going to clean my stamp. Look at the state of my stamps, they all get like that, and that's my fault because I tend to clean them with baby wipes, and as I clean them I think I tend to pull the ink off onto the wood, but it doesn't affect how they work. Right, but to clean it for now I've got my stamping scrub and I've got my stamping mist, and if you haven't seen this wonderful little bit of kit before, I'm sure some of you have because I do use it quite a bit. You've got little raindrops there in a cut out section, which so that means that's the wet bit. A couple of squirts, get your stamp, just give it a good old rub, and don't worry about this getting dirty. You can take these out, I won't do it now, but they just pop out and you can just wash them under the tap with a very little bit of mild detergent. Just let them dry, and then there's a sun area there, that's the dry section. Oh my goodness me, look at all the fluff that's picking up. That's probably from the baby wipes I've used in the past. Okay, so I've done the strawberry slush. That one's nice and dry now. I think I'll probably go to the lighter one next. Just there's a bit less chance of contaminating your stamp with darker ink. So I know that's where I want that. Now I'm going to put this here. Bearing in mind I'm going to put a bit of an embossed edge around. I want to leave enough of an edge, and I want to make sure that when I put these on they're reasonably equally spaced. Again, I'm going for that top and bottom. So I'll do that. I think that's about where I want it. Put my Stamp-A-Majig on, take the vellum away, leave that in the exact place, ink my stamp up, make sure it's well inked, and again make sure it goes perfectly flush. If you haven't got a Stamp-A-Majig, it really is worth thinking about getting one. I use mine a lot. It just means I've got total control of where my images go on the page, or on the card, on the page. I'm thinking of a book. Close that up, and again just leave that to dry for a second. That one's not too wet. Bring in my stamping scrub. I've probably got enough on there. Make sure you're on the right side. Give it a good clean. Oh, I wonder if that's shaking the camera when I do that. If it is, I am sorry. Right, and the last one. So this will be the cherry cobbler. So where do I want this one? Let's have a look. So I want that facing up. I want enough room round. I can have it exactly underneath, or I could move it over. I think I'll just have it round about there, because I don't want them to be exactly lined up. So now I know I want that there. Stamp-A-Majig, take my vellum away. I've finished with that for now. Cherry cobbler ink, give this a good ink. Such a gorgeous colour, cherry cobbler. And without getting it on your fingers, because it does make a heck of a mess on your fingers, I've regularly got red fingers. And press that down. Lovely jubbly. Okay, so finish with a Stamp-A-Majig. That's what will give my stamp a final clean while I'm just letting that dry for a moment. And then I can put my stamping scrub away, and I can put that away. Okay. Excuse me. I'm going to bring in my Simply Scored board, because I've got an embossed line pattern around there. So turn this face down so that the embossed line, when you're looking at the right side, faces up. Normally I tend to start sort of halfway down and join my square, but today I'm going to be daring. I'm going to actually start at the edge and go to the other edge. So, oh gosh, that's one of the ink pads flipping up. Turn it 90 degrees, use your stylus that comes with the board, put your stylus in the groove, go all the way down, edge to edge, and you'll get a nice little overlapping pattern in the corners. And again there. Such a simple way to finish a card off. And there, you can see, so you've got a little pattern in the corners of this one. Right, I can put that away. I've finished with that for now. Now, looking at the finished card, I just cut out 3 little circles. I'm still building up my collection of circular and square punches. That is on my Christmas list, and hopefully I shall have them all by then. But for now, what I've had to do is use one oh gosh, sorry. I've got a nesting set of circular dies, and so that's what I'm going to have to use for this. And this one would be, let's have a look. That one's about 1.5 inches round. That's the cutting edge on the inside. So you can use the circular die, works perfectly well. Or if you have circular punches, then the 1.5 inch one would be just right. So I took strawberry slush card, cherry cobbler card and pink pirouette card and cut a circle out, put the die on there, ran it through the die cutter and ended up with 3 matching circles, just to save you a little bit of time watching me having to do that. So then what I did, took a dimensional, and in fact I think my card's upside down. But to be honest, it doesn't really matter which way up it goes. That's the beauty of this kind of design. There is no right or wrong way. Oops. Try and get it so that you're covering all of the space there. This just helps give it a bit of added lift. Right. I'm trying to do this peering overhead. One dimensional's plenty. There we go. Okay. And then I'm going to attach that onto my cardstock. I'm just using some glue just around the edge. You can use glue, you can use double-sided tape, you can use snail, you can use whatever you like that works for you. Everybody's got their own preferences. I just find this gives me a little bit of leeway. Now, which way am I going to do it? Shall I do it the same as the other one? That's not very daring, is it? I should really try to do each one differently. Take more risks, perhaps. Okay, so that's attached. The only other thing I've got to do is make my little flowers. And to do that, I've used the Petite Petals set, and I've used this one. You could use any of them. Again, personal preference. That's just the one I wanted to use because I just felt it gave a slightly lighter feeling to the card, because we've got an open pattern here, solid colour, and that just gave me a bit of open pattern. But there's no particular reason other than that I went with it. So I'm going to stamp one. I should have left these open. That would have saved a few minutes, wouldn't it? I know what I've forgotten. No, I haven't. I thought I'd forgotten my punch then. I do my I craft up in the attic. We've had the attic converted into 2 separate rooms. They were originally 2 bedrooms, but as there's just myself and my husband living here now, we don't need them. So I've commandeered both rooms. One was originally for me to craft in, and the other one my husband wanted to do his photography, but he never comes up here, so bit by bit he hasn't noticed I've been moving his things out, and I've commandeered it to do my filming in. But the problem is, because I craft in the other room, all of my equipment and everything I've got is in there, so if I've brought everything in this room to film and I've forgotten something, I have to literally get up, walk across this room, walk across the corridor and go to the other room. So that's why I try to get everything ready, but occasionally I do forget. Anyway, sorry, that was a lot of waffling on. what I've done is I've stamped one of each in Pink Pirouette, Strawberry Slush and Cherry Cobbler. There's my stamp. I just need to give that a quick clean in a minute. And I've got my Petite Petals punch there. So I'm just going to punch out one of each of these. I do love how Stampin' Up regularly make coordinating punches to go with their stamps. It really makes life so much easier when you're crafting. I'm not really a huge fan of having to cut out by hand. A bit lazy, I think. And the beauty of having a punch is you always get the exact same shape every single time. You know what it's like sometimes when you cut out by hand, I think get a bit tired or your scissors slip and you cut a bit more white on one and you cut into the border of the other. So having the punch to go with it really does help. Right, what I'm going to do is just give my flowers a little bit of lift. So I've got my stamping piercing mat. Oh gosh, you can see what I pierced earlier. I was doing a heart earlier. And I've got my stamping pierce tool. I'm not going to get the sharp end out. On the end there's this sort of curved bit, and all you need to do to get lift is just literally press it into the middle and see how the flower lifts up. It's a really clever way of getting some dimension into your petals with very little work, to be honest. Okay. Right, I shall move that out the way. I'm just going to pop a little rhinestone into each of these. I love these rhinestones, they're so sparkly. I used to buy them off eBay, and yes, they are a little bit cheaper, but my goodness me, when you see these you will really see the difference between the cheaper ones and the Stampin' Up ones. The Stampin' Up ones sparkle. Honestly, they look like diamonds when you've got the light on them. They are so clear, whereas I did find when I bought cheaper ones that a lot of them had a cloudy effect to them. So I am sold on Stampin' Up sparkly rhinestones. They just look so lovely. I don't know if you can pick that up, but absolutely gorgeous. Right, now I just need to adhere my flowers to that, and I have forgotten my glue dots, so I'm going to improvise and just use half a dimensional. The only trouble with these is they are very sticky, and you use your scissors on them and they leave your scissors tacky. Okay, so I'm going to match the Strawberry Slush onto the Strawberry Slush petal, and it's up to you if you want them all going the same direction or if you want them going in different directions. I'm going to, handy if I took the back of the paper off, wouldn't it? I'm going to attach the Pink Pirouette to the Pink Pirouette card, and I'm going to have all mine going in the same direction. And I just need a tiny little bit here. Don't need a full one, do I? When you get dimensionals, don't forget you can use all these edge bits as well. You know, it's not just the ones in the middle. There's a lot going around the edge. It's a shame to waste them. And I'm going to use my Cherry Cobbler on my Cherry Cobbler circle. And that's the card. Very simple, very straightforward to make. It would look lovely with butterflies on. There are lots of other little flowers, lots of different embellishments. You could build these circles up. You could have graduating different circles, lots of different ideas of things that you could do. But a nice, simple, straightforward card to make that you could use for any occasion. Thank you very much for joining me. Goodbye from Debbie at cariadcards.co.